Welcome back to the Eye of Jupiter Live, and today I have one very special guest. I would say he's a close friend of mine. He is the first guest that when I was on the old show that I reached out to personally, and he was like, "Let's do it." He's always been just a gentleman. He's always been a man of his word. Uh, he's has incredible stories. Today, ladies and gentlemen, I have on Daryl Denton from was it Bigfoot creatures, Bigfoot believers and other creatures. I think his name. If I'm wrong, Daryl, you can correct me. But it's just there's a lot of names that are in this community that we're all part of. A little bit of housekeeping. So if you keep finding yourself coming back to the channel, yeah, Jupiter, please do me a favor, hit that like and subscribe button. If you can also find me on Rumble, which I'll be doing some podcasts in the near future with a friend of mine that I met yesterday. Shout out to Raz. What's up, boy? What's up? What's up? What's up? And he's actually on here right now. Yeah, you can also find me on Spotify. Not many people are going over there and checking it out, but if you're on the go and you want to listen to it, go ahead. Go ahead and download it, throw it in your trunk. You're doing your deliveries, you're in a hospital on a night shift or whatever it is that you're doing. You can listen to Jupiter. Why not? Yeah, what else? You can catch me here every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and you can catch my shows once a week on Friday at 3:30. This week is going to be a banger. And I hate to use Sam Tripoli from Tinfoil Hat's wording, but it's going to be incredible. It's somebody got in contact with me. He is Rocco Fowler. That is his name, and he is a person who was like one of the first Montauk boys. So he was in Project Montauk and MK Ultra and all that. And trust me, it took me a while to go through and edit some of the words out that he was saying because it's that crazy, guys. But it's it's going to be a banger. So don't forget to miss that one. Don't forget to catch that one. Excuse me, the other way around. And that's enough of me talking. So without further ado, let's welcome to the Eye of Jupiter, my good buddy Daryl.
Hey, thanks for having me, Tom. Glad to be here, brother.
Thank you so much for being on, man. Every time I can't because somebody dropped out. I was going to have on Michael Anthony. I'm sure his work. Something happened and he was like, I can't. And I was like, well, I've been thinking about you like cognitively. I was like, oh, it's been I think December since I talked to you last. And I was like, I'm sure he's done some things. He has more experiences, and it's always just a blast to talk to you. So I appreciate that you accepted the offer, my friend.
Hey, glad to be here. Honored to be here, buddy. You've been a good friend to me, and I'll always be here if I can. Yeah, we've had a lot of things happen since December.
Oh
gosh.
All right. Well, that's good. Let's get into it. First of all, please, for the people who don't know who you are by now, which is incredible. If you guys don't know Daryl, he created one of I think the biggest Bigfoot group in all of Facebook. I think he'll tell you that, or at least the fastest growing one. He'll correct me in a second. So do me a favor, buddy. Introduce yourself and tell us where we can find you.
Well, Daryl Denton is my name, and I grew up in Tennessee, and now I live 2 locations basically. I live in Tennessee and I live in New Jersey, where my fiance lives here. He's talking about my group, Bigfoot Believers and Other Creatures. We started that in October of 2022, and it's a huge. It's growing really fast. I think it is one of the biggest, largest private groups on Facebook. I don't know the exact number where it's at, but we continue to grow pretty fast. But
it's a good group.
We have people that there's no criticism allowed there. You can say whatever you think and show your pictures and show your encounters, and you won't get any criticism or ridicule. So that's pretty much what we have. Some super guys that are admins. My part of my team, my actual team that I research with. Martin Groves is one of my admin. Ron Moorhead, one of my very close friends, he's part of my team. He's an admin, and then I have Barton Nunley as my admin. That's my team. Those 4 people research a place called Land Between the Lakes in Kentucky, and LBL it's better known as. But we've been doing that there. Martin and I have been friends 43 years, best friends. So he and I've been going in there. I don't know how many years, 25, 26 years we were into Bigfoot for so long, and I'm still Interested in Bigfoot, always will be. My first encounter was in 1992. It absolutely scared me to death. And I didn't go in the woods for 7 years until I met the second family by complete accident of forest people I met on the Cumberland River in Tennessee. But, I'm mainly into Dogman now. And
Okay.
basically because not that I have anything against researching Bigfoot, I felt like I've done that so long that I got a little more interest in Dogman with Martin and Martin, and Ron is into that also, and he frequents us there as often as he can, and we have a great time there. We've had some crazy stuff happen this year. March, we had October of this last year, we had crazy stuff happen there. Then we went back to March this year. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, before we get I'm sorry, Daryl. One second, could we go ahead and promote your friend's books real quick? Okay, because you know that.
Sure.
Go ahead. Let's promote all their books.
Yeah. Well, Barton Unley's got 4 or 5 books, and they've been out for a while, but they're still great reads. If you've never read them, you can look them up. They're available on Amazon, or you can reach right out to Barton Unley himself and purchase one of his books from him. Then we got Ron Moorhead, that's got probably the best book I've ever read about why these creatures have a ability to transfer themselves interdimensionally, or it's called quantum. And
yes.
I've read it 3 times. I've bought 27 or 28 of them and gave them to friends of mine that I wanted them to read it that much. And over the years,
he just had a new one. He just had a new one released not that long ago either.
Brand new one just came out. I was actually with Ron when it came out. Ron and I traveled together for about 14 days in March, and we were at the Georgia Bigfoot Conference together and North Carolina, and his book came out that week, and it's doing real well, so you might look him up and try to get that book from him. It's a great read. It's about some of his experiences and beliefs and what Bigfoot actually does, not just about what it is. But
right.
Then I got Martin Groves that I've known forever and still one of my best friends. All those guys are my closest friends that I research with. But Martin has a new book coming out in about 2 weeks. It'll be Beast Between the Rivers. He's got 1 and 2 already out. I'm in the second book.
Okay.
That he wrote, and the last chapter is about me and him and the Dogman that we've seen in the LBL in October of 2022. And his new book will be Beast Between the Rivers, Part 3, The Devil's Backbone, which goes into some issues with people missing in the LBL and some of the other experiences he's recorded from eyewitnesses and that type of thing. It'd be a great read. It comes out in about 2 weeks. We'll be at the Tennessee Wildman Conference, which is a big conference held in Tennessee every year. And he and I are fortunate enough to be speaking there with Joe and Jesse of Hellbent Holler, very close friends of ours, and M.K. Davis, very close friend of mine. And there's some other speakers there too, but those guys have been there with us quite a while, and enjoyed being with them.
Fantastic, dude. Yeah. One more thing before we get into your encounters. Is this? I don't remember. I think it was you. Do you know who Harley Owens is?
Harley Owens is a very close friend of mine. He's a young guy from Tennessee, and he and I have become pretty close in the last 6 months. Harley reached out to me.
Yeah, he told me he sent you a picture of a footprint that he also sent me. And if I'm not mistaken, is that accurate?
That's correct. That was
okay.
Are you talking about the 3-toed looking footprint?
Yes. And could you tell the audience what they've already heard? But what did you tell him? Because I know what he said, but I want to know, because I want to hear from the horse's mouth. Better said. What do you think it is? Because
I've seen that similar track actually 3 times in the last 2 years. One was from Beth Collinsworth, a very close friend of mine that's also in my group, and she's one of the best there is when it comes to that type thing. Incredible, Beth is, and she sent me a real similar picture of that from the other side of Bowling Green, Kentucky. And then I received another one from a person that I really didn't know very well. He sent me a picture of it and asked me what I thought it was, and that was kind of I've seen a lot more of those lately, and that was Kevin Schultz. And I've never. That creature exists, it has to make those top tracks. And I've been told by 3 different people that are pretty good with tracks what they think it is. I've been told an alien. I've been told a dogman type, some type I haven't heard of. And I've been told an unknown creature. So I personally think it's probably some type of creature that we're not well known of. I would, as I told Harley, I think it could be a lizard type creature.
Yeah, he was saying it's maybe reptilian. Like
yeah,
you were saying, maybe reptilian.
Correct. There's been some tracks like that out of South Carolina in that area, and there's been quite a few of these lizard type people supposedly seen there. I've never seen one, but I've heard of them. So
okay, I was talking to a gentleman.
Artie's a great guy. He's a great young man.
He's fantastic. He's a sweetheart of a guy.
Think a lot of him, and he started a little group not long ago. So I think it's Bigfoot Data. You ought to check that out too. Harley's real good. He made me an admin in his group without asking me, and I just went ahead and accepted it.
You did the same for me, though. You did the same for me. I always get like little things like, hey, could you approve this post? And by the time I click on it, like half the time it's already either been approved or disapproved, but I try to stay active. Yeah, I was talking to a gentleman yesterday. His name is Raz, and he has an interesting footprint. I don't know what it is. I don't know much about footprints, but there you go, Raz. That's somebody you can maybe send it to, because he's having some interesting encounters in Ohio. And he's like, I don't know what this is. I don't know what this is, Tom. I got a footprint. Maybe you can enlighten him or have somebody that can get in contact with him. He's looking for someone to go back into the woods with him. And because he has had some very scary experiences out there, sticks thrown at him, his dog even like went off a little bit. And there's a lot of stories about a particular spot. And he was like, I don't know who to turn to. And your name did not pop in my head, but now that I'm thinking of it, there you go.
Well, so, I mean, you're welcome to send it to me. I'll look at it, and I'll have some other people look at it that I know. Robin Haynes is really good at those tracks too. She's really good. Robin's very close to mine too. But there's several people that I would get to look at it that might have a little bit of educated guess, mainly because without seeing the creature, you're not 100% sure. But I mean, it's basically what it is.
Yeah, so there you go, Ross. You can send it to Daryl, and Daryl has contacts with all the big, I guess we say big, but the more experienced or the better known names in the cryptid field, and maybe he can send you down the right path, or at least give you some type of idea that maybe what it is. So he was asking maybe if I knew somebody, and now it comes up now. All right, so you started to talk about March of this year. Well, enlighten me, my friend.
Well, we get our basic research time. We don't do a lot of research in the summer because it's so thick, it's hard to see, and you can't really get into the areas you want to because of of the vision. You just can't. There's so much foliage. Right. And the ticks are so bad in the LBL that you can be in there 10 minutes and have 100 of them on you. So we're not real fond of those things either. But our main research time is. Our main research time is right around the end of September, all the way through the end of March, early or mid-April, and that's mainly our best research time. We seem to have better luck those times anyway, because it's more visible, and you can see a distance better, and the creatures seem to be more active around that time anyway. So
maybe they're migrating. Maybe they're migrating to.
I've been asked that and told that by a lot of people. I think some of them do migrate. I think some of them never change. But and I'm talking about Bigfoot with that. I don't know about Dogman. I've seen 3 of those creatures in the last 3 years, and I don't know everything about anything, including Bigfoot. I don't claim to be an expert. I can only tell you what I've experienced and what encounters I've had. But I think some of those probably do travel with the game or depending on the weather, because of what they're going to feed on. But I think some of them are permanent too.
So Dogman, that is it's a relatively recent phenomenon compared to Bigfoot. Like, what is the first time you've heard of it personally?
Well, the first time I ever heard of it was 1990, late of 93, because
that's Martin Gross. Yeah.
Martin and I were very close friends. I was mayor of a town there, and Martin was our chief deputy officer for the county, and he and I were really close. And we would, I'd had my first experience in November of '92, a Bigfoot experience called a woodbugger that came out when I was deer hunting and scared me to death. And I'd never dreamed anything like that was in existence. But Martin, in early '93, he had an encounter in the LBL where these two Dogman type creatures and two Bigfoot looking creatures tried to, well, we know the Dogman tried to kill him and his partner.
Right.
Tried to come into his camp and try to attack him. And that was the first time I'd ever heard of Dogman because he didn't know who to talk to. Back in that day, we didn't have groups. We didn't have, podcasts or radio shows you could talk to this kind of stuff about. In '92, you had to for '93, you held it into yourself and you didn't really tell anybody. If you did, they thought you were crazy. And then, of course, Martin and I were close enough that we could rely on each other. And he knew what had happened to me because I had told him. And, I was pretty much frightened to death for about 6 or 7 years. I didn't go in the woods. I didn't hunt in the woods for 7 years.
Wow.
And I deer hunted all my life. And then after this happened to Martin and his partner in '93, I think it was April of '93, he was turkey hunting. And,
right.
It took him, just 3 years ago, he had PTSD for 30 years almost. And, just 3 years ago was the first time that Martin ever told his story. And that was in August of '22. It hadn't even quite been 3 years. And that was at the first Dogman conference that was in the LBL, where it was actually in Paris Landing, which is outside the LBL. That was the first time he'd ever told his story besides to me. So.
Oh wow! So you're the first person to actually hear his story, or one of the first.
Probably the first that even knew the story. But we were close enough. We would go to lunch, during the week regularly, and he would call me on my cell or whatever, and we would, I'd just gotten a cell in '90. I don't know when it was. Matter of fact, I didn't even have a cell probably about '99, but he would call me.
That was me too.
City Hall or somewhere or wherever I was at, and we'd meet up for lunch, or we just made an agreement the day before. Hey, I'll catch you tomorrow at lunch, same place or whatever. But we discussed it back then because, he was pretty upset. And, it can really do something to you. It's life-changing. But especially when you got a couple creatures trying to kill you. Mine was a little different. Mine scared me to death. It didn't try to kill me. I thought it was going to, but it didn't.
Yeah, you did. You jumped out of the tree stand, like down an embankment into the creek, and ripped your pants and ran out. The funny thing is that your grandfather knew, though. Your grandfather was like, yeah, I know what that is. You're like, what?
Oh yeah, he knew exactly what a woodbugger was. That's what he called them. He'd seen 4 in his lifetime. So and heard a lot more than that, and knew they were present, but he had actually witnessed 4 of them. He told me in his lifetime. So.
Yeah,
I never heard of them, and I've seen many Bigfoot, Sasquatch, or forest people too, and I do think there's a difference over the years since then. And I've never seen another one like my first encounter. Nothing looked like that. That was the meanest, ugliest thing I've ever seen. So
I don't imagine what I could. I can't even imagine what I would do. I couldn't imagine what I'd do if I'd see one of those. I'm sorry. I'm asking you a question because for me, you're my go-to guy, and and if not, you are like the hub in which you can direct me somewhere else. I had a guy come on, and he was telling me that he was attacked by it's coming up on the podcast, guys. I'll look into it. He was attacked by a 10-foot tall owl with red eyes with a 30-foot wingspan. Have you ever heard of anything like that?
I have heard of something like that. Matter of fact, I think I may know that story a little bit. I'm pretty sure that's the same guy that reached out and told me about that story. But I have never seen one, no. But I mean, I've heard of it. But it's kind of strange. In May of 2023, we were in the LBL one night, and Letitia Nunley, Martin Nunley's wife,
Barton's wife.
Two other ladies were out. We go out when we have what Barton calls the Brotherhood of the Wolf. You'll have some wives come along or whatever, and we'll stay in cabins. We don't go to the research area that we normally go to, but we'll go to some other areas and drive down the parkway in vehicles and turn off and watch for things. And they actually seen what they thought was a Mothman land in the road. 3 of them witnessed it, but it wasn't as big as a Mothman. It was very small. It was maybe 3 foot tall, but it looked just like a Mothman. It had the red eyes and everything. But
that's what this guy was saying.
Yeah, I've never seen one of those things, but I have heard of them, and I'm pretty sure I know the guy you're talking about.
Yeah, he's. I think it's going to be on August 16th, guys. Friday, August 16th. That episode is going to release. I was talking to somebody. I can't even remember what I was on, but it was somehow being connected to like demonic type stuff.
Yeah,
and he's been trying to figure it out too. Oh wow, I'm gone.
That would definitely be
yeah. So okay, so you were starting before we kind of, I kind of deflected the conversation. You were saying since the last time you were on with me and my former partner Rye from Codex of Curiosities, go over there and check that out, guys. That you've had some experiences, man. I'd love to hear them.
Well, the one that we had in March of this year on the LBL, it was me, Ron Moorhead, and my same team, Barton Unley and Martin Groves. The strangest thing I've seen, actually seen 2 creatures this last March there that I've never seen before. And I don't know I don't have no idea what it was. The first one looked like a large bear that was sitting on its hind legs and back end of itself. It was looking right at us from a bank on the side of the road. Except it had a head like a kangaroo. The head looked like a kangaroo. It was the size of a bear. And its front 2 paws were up like this in front of it. And it sat there and watched us as we slowly drove by. And by the time we turned around and went back, it was gone.
Where was this at, Daryl?
I've never seen anything like that.
Where was this at? Was this in Tennessee or? Oh, it's LBL again.
Yeah. And then 2 nights after that, we were staying in the same cabin we always stay in, which is the area we researched. 2 nights after that, I had taken Ron to his son's house, who lives about an hour and a half from there. His son was having a birthday for his grandson the next day, and I came back, and Martin and I went out, and for the first time ever, I seen one of those, a lot of people call them a crawler. Some people call them a rake.
Yes.
First one I've ever seen, and we watched this thing. I was probably 50 foot in front of them on this closed down campground area that we were at on a gravel road coming out of it with a bridge barricaded. And I walked down into the edge of the woods. I seen something running across the ground, and I shined my flashlight on it, and I seen it was a whitish gray thing, and it looked humanoid in the face. And when I hit it with a spotlight, it ran up a tree, a big tree, a huge tree. It ran up this tree just like nothing, like it just had gravity attached to it. It may have been claws or whatever, I couldn't tell, but I watched this thing run up a tree, and it ran all the way up into the top of this tree. And this tree was probably 150 foot tall. It was a huge, massive tree. And it got up into the very top, and it was on the back side, and I couldn't get a good view of it as it got up there. But Martin witnessed it go up the tree too, and Martin also was there. And this thing got to the top of this tree and started making this clicking noise. It was like clicking, like talking to something, like a click, click, click noise. And then there was 2 more behind me. They were behind me in the woods. They were answering back to this thing in the tree with these clicking sounds. That's what we felt like they were communicating back and forth. So That was the first time I'd ever seen one of those type creatures, and
I've heard of them. I've heard of them. We've had somebody a long time ago who had a dream about like one of those kind of things coming through a window to try to get him, and like he couldn't wake up in the dream and all that. But that is that you were the okay. So you kind of you were the catalyst for that one. That's the first time I've had someone talk about a creepy crawler on the show. So it was like it was on all fours. It was on all fours.
On all fours and ran up a tree. Yes.
I don't even know what to say about that. Like, so what is it? Because we know about the land between the lakes. We know that it used to be 2 rivers, and now it's dammed off. And then it also flooded a lot of areas. I also had on. He wrote a book called the LBL Massacre. I can't think of his name. Steve Causey, I think. Yeah, Steve Causey.
Yes.
And this place, yes, fantastic guys. Shout out to Steve. This place, if you had to put your finger on it, why is it this way?
I've been going to the LBL since I was a young kid, and I wasn't aware of any of this stuff when I was a kid. When I got older, of course, we all heard about the 1980s massacre. I mean, that was all over everywhere. Everybody talking about it. And, some people thought it wasn't real. Some people did believe it, and then there was supposedly all the sheriff's department deputies and local authorities that said it was real, and it actually did happen. But that was the first time I'd heard about anything crazy in the LBL. When I was that was in the 80s. I think it was 1982. But there was a lot of people forced out of that land when they built those dams. When they built the dam in Fort Kentucky Lake, there was a Lake Barkley, which is the Cumberland River, turns into Lake Barkley, and then you had the Tennessee River on the other side. That both of those were joined together in a certain area, and they dammed it up to form Kentucky Lake. A lot of people were run out of that area. Some people wouldn't leave; they just put their farm right on top of it, and either drowned it or whatever happened to them. They just flooded the whole area. There's a lot of cemeteries underground too. That I don't know how many underwater. I don't know how many is underwater. There's over 200 cemeteries, and it's not a national park. People think it is, but it's actually owned by the Forestry Services now. At one time, it was, a federal park, but now it's considered Forestry Service land, and people still hunt there and camp there and that type of thing, and they still have campgrounds, a few of them, but it's nothing like what it once was. There's so many campgrounds that are closed down now for various reasons.
Right.
Makes no sense why.
That's what Steve was telling me.
Closed. So, we know Martin has done tremendous study on this area. Martin Groves, being a former, sheriff's department employee like he was, and the training he had, he's talked to eyewitnesses about encounters and people being attacked and people. I believe I'm right on this number. I think since the 60s, there's 33 people. I think the number's right on this. 33 people that were missing in the LBL, and that either they claimed as unknown death or unknown creature or whatever.
Or like they'll say something like a bear attack, and they'll come up with some kind of excuses and stuff like that. So you were recently in a documentary. Just tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'm real fortunate, and I'm so honored to be on the documentary. It was, Seth Breedlove has Small Town Monsters, and Martin and I were it was about our Dogman sighting we had in October of 2022. The documentary was based on that. Joe and Jesse of Hellbent Hollow were also involved in that, and they've had some strange things going there too. They're very close friends of ours. A friend of mine, Mike Smith, was in it. It was Elijah Henderson, who's a close friend of ours and goes out and researches with us sometimes. He was involved in that also. But the documentary was basically There was, I believe, 5 parts to it, and I believe the last part, the actual documentary, just came out last week.
What's the name of it? What's the name of it? So Pam, maybe you can go find us and pull this up for us right now while we're live. What's the name of the documentary, Daryl?
Well, they've actually got 4 or 5 different names of it, because there's like 3 or 4 trailers. You know, it's the Dark and Bloody Grounds. It's the what are they hiding in the LBL? The Beast of the LBL. And then the final one is the one that has our story, Martin and I, in it, where at the same spot that we'd seen this very strange Dogman in October 22. Joe and Jesse are also in that pretty much, and tell me about some things they've witnessed and things they know about there, because they do a lot of research there too. So, but it was mainly about the Dogman creature that Martin Groves and I seen in 2022. And it was definitely the strangest thing I've ever witnessed, and I've never seen anything like that. But
stranger than the creepy crawler or the crawler, whatever you want to call it.
Well, you know, that was at that time. I would probably say this creature was even still stranger than that, because it was, although it was a complete, you know, beast, and you could see its form and the mane around its neck, and it went from a blue mist to a silver color, and you can see the light on the end of its hair. And this thing's looking at me in the truck window. I'm maybe 7 foot from it, and it's huge. Its head's half the size of a truck windshield, and we're on a gravel road sitting there and driving very slow when I spotted it. And it was, when it got up and went around, it hit us. It zapped me and Martin. He got severely sick, sickest I've ever seen him. I thought I was going to take him to the hospital, but it hit me, but not nearly as bad as it hit him. And this thing was just massive. And the weird thing about it was, even though it was, you could see its eyes, they were clear like small flashlights, very deep in the head, and they had a mouth and teeth and a muzzle and the whole thing, and it looked like it just had a grin on its face, and it looked right at me like it was going to pounce on me. It was like on the side of the road, like a cat ready to jump on a mouse. And
okay.
And we're on
so it was down in the attack position, like looking at you.
Oh yeah. It was right next to a ravine, an old creek bed. It was next to a culvert. And we're on this road in the back of the middle of nowhere. LBL has roads that go left, right. They go everywhere. They go gravel, dirt. You know, they're just roads that people don't travel. And we're doing like 1 or 2 miles an hour when we turn on this. So this is pretty close to the area where Martin had his encounter in 93. That's what we were doing back there. We had been there 2 days. We were going back for, I guess, what would have been his 29th or 30th anniversary. And we had been out there in that area trying to see what we could see. And this thing gets up and goes behind the truck and goes in a field to the left of us. And the weird thing about it was you could see the size of it. You could see it moving and walking. But at the same time, it was transparent. You could see all the way through it. So it was the weirdest thing I've ever seen. Never seen anything in my life.
I can, and I'd imagine if you're inside of a truck, so there's somewhat of a like, okay, it's there. It's like, you know, it's like you're looking outside of a door to see it. But imagine something of that size.
We had just stopped about 20 minutes before that, and I believe the time was sometime around 12:30, 12:40 at night. And we had stopped in an area because we hadn't eaten in a while, and we just had a snack on the side of went in the back of the middle of nowhere back there. We lowered Martin's tailgate, and we just got through eating and a little snack and got in the truck. We had just turned on this little gravel road. And on these roads back there, you can't run 60 miles an hour. You've got to go really slow because there's holes everywhere. A lot of the road is dirt. I mean, you can't just.
Sounds
like you're
creeping
along doing 1 or 2 miles an hour, and I've got my window down, my arm hanging out on the passenger side. I look over in this ravine, and it's this light that lit up area, and it's this blue mist turning into this creature, and it's solid gray silver color when I see it, its head and the mane around its neck, and it's just staring at me. It's like it's going to pounce. It's down on I couldn't see its feet. They were down in the grass and the sticks, but it looked like it was ready to just pounce on me. So it got my attention. I was looking at it, kind of didn't know what to do. And about the time I looked at Martin, he said, "I already see it." And I said, "I mean, we're really close to this thing." And then it hits us with some kind of whatever you call that.
Whatever that is, yeah. Big ultrasound, radiation, whatever, right? You call it zapped, which I think is a very apropos name for it. Oh, by the way, guys, anybody in the chat, if you have a question for Daryl, I'm sure he'd be willing to, you know what I mean? I'm thinking the best I can on top of my head because, you know, I do have a bit of, you know, experience talking with this gentleman. But if you have any questions, you know, about the LBL, about his experiences, go ahead and fire away. Yeah. So this documentary, you were filmed, and they just like, you know, just kind of basically doing what I'm doing now. Does it ask you, or did they take you out to where this happened, or how did it go about?
We were there. Martin and I were there. It was actually filmed last October. We were there last October for, I don't remember how long we were there, a week or longer, but it was, you know, we were out several days in different areas, and there's a part of the trailer where I talk about the Bigfoot area. Then there's another one where Martin talks about the Dogman and the studies he's done on it, what he thinks is there. It's a really good job. If you have never followed Small Town Monsters with Seth Breedlove and Alexander and Eli and Heather and the whole gang, you know, Mr. Deese, I mean, just a great crew to work with. They really are. And they really go out of their way to try to promote what you've seen and try to make it more actual than just like you're there. I mean, they do a really good job. But
we'll go over and check those guys out. Small Town Monsters, they seem to be on the up and up. We do have a question from Magical. We have a question from Magical Journey. I don't know if you know anything about this. Magical Journey writes, Daryl, was the history of the LBL heavy in Celtic culture?
Heavy in what type culture?
Celtic culture.
You know, that question I don't know. I can tell you that they started seeing these Dogman creatures back when the French were in that area. Apparently, you know, some French immigrants had moved into that area in the late 1700s, and there's records and dates going back to the American Indian being there too that seen these Dogman type creatures at that time. The French reported in journals and things, I'm told, that they did attack a lot of their livestock and stuff.
So, so it's more of a French move. Maybe you can enlighten us about that. Yeah. So do you have any other research areas that you go to other than the LBL?
I've got areas that I've been to for many years. Yeah, there's some Cheatham County, Tennessee that I go to with one of my old research partners there occasionally. But the last 2 or 3 years, it's been basically. I mean, I still get out to certain areas. I get all types of people contacting me regularly about creatures on their property. And back when I had a couple of teams for 10, 11 years there, we'd go out and investigate them pretty regular. But I don't have that now, and I'm kind of scattered out a little further away too. So I don't get out and do that as much as I once did. But occasionally we'll go out and research an area that someone's having a lot of high activity on, whether it be a dog or a Bigfoot or whatever it is. But I wish I had more time and more people and money to be able to do all of them, but it's just
we all wish the same thing. We wish you money, Daryl. That way you can go out and do that and come back and help some people, because in the end, because you know, there's a lot of people actually getting hurt by some of these creatures, or being frightened. You know, you had an experience where they were like banging on your door, and you're waiting there in the front foyer with the shotgun in your hand until I never remember the word, but you basically banished them. And
I think so. You know, you're talking about in 2020 when I had those things attack my farm. I think it was a couple of rogue ones, or maybe 3 of them. But yeah, that was, thank God for my close friend Scott Carpenter, who's no longer with us.
Rest in peace.
Lost a great one when we lost him, because he was super knowledgeable and had a lot of experience with a lot of different type creatures. But we rebuked them is what happened on
Rebuked.
that. That was kind of shocking when Scott told me that. He says it'll work as long as you believe in Jesus Christ and you have that in your heart and soul. It will work. And I've been fighting these things for, well, not fighting. I'm just terrified, waiting for them to try to come in my house for 2.5 months. And I did the rebuking, and I was just, I believe Scott always did. And, he was a friend, and I knew he wouldn't tell me something that wasn't real. But I never had a problem with him again after that. So,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I just wish you could, help more people, because if you go over and check out his stuff, contact Daryl, go ahead and throw him a couple bucks. Why not? Now, I would be remiss if I didn't have you go back, because we've always kind of went around a little bit, this and that and the other. Could you enlighten me about this family of Bigfoot that you were gifting and that you became in close contact with? I would love to hear that story.
Yeah, that was about 7 years after my first encounter. My first encounter was November the 6th of 1992. And I didn't hunt. I quit deer hunting. What deer hunting? Let me rephrase that. I didn't go in the woods. I still hunted out of my truck in my field at my farm or my grandfather's farm or whoever. But I didn't go in the woods, but I did that. And that particular incident happened right around 1999. A little bit. It was in 99. And basically, I was fishing on a spot on the Cumberland River between Nashville and Cheatham County, Tennessee. A spot that I'd fished at for quite a few years, and it's a private spot. You wouldn't even know how to get there. It's very hard to find, but it's down behind some type of old water treatment or sewage treatment type plant, and there's a fence that you have to go through down there, a gate, and you park behind it. And I'd actually been taken to that spot by a couple guys that I went to high school with, and there was a real good fishing spot for them. And I'd fished down there since my high school days, but not as often. It's probably been 10 or 12 years since I've been down there when this actual first occurrence happened. But I went down there, and you go through this, you pull in behind this building, and you park your truck, and you go through a gate, and it's probably about 200 yards from there through the woods. It's like a game trail where deer use regularly. From that gate, right past that gate, you get on that game trail and you walk back in there probably a couple hundred yards till you get to the spot where we fish at. And it's where a creek runs into the Cumberland River, and there's a sandbar that goes out from that creek, from the side of that creek out into the river. And you can actually walk out onto that sandbar when the water is at normal height. And that particular day, it was in February of 99 when this first happened. It was still cool in Tennessee. I mean, it was in the 40s. I mean, Tennessee has been known to snow all the way into April, late April. But, I've been down there, and it's a real good spot for what we call crappie. Some people call them crappie, but we go down there and fish for them a certain time of year, and that's what I was doing.
You can't set the hook. You can't set the hook too hard on those; or rip right out of their mouth.
You really can, and tear their little mouth.
You just real hard. That's it.
Yeah, right. I hadn't been down there. Like I said, it'd probably been 11 or 12 years since I've been down there, and I parked behind that plant there and walked through the regular like I'd always done, and went down and set my fishing equipment up and basically started fishing. Now, what it is there, it's about maybe about 8 or 9 foot right off the bank. There's a lot of roots sticking out of the bank, the river bank, and when you catch a fish, you go to the right, you go down that and walk on that sandbar and reel your fish in to keep you from getting all tangled up on those roots. And,
right.
Debris there, and that's what you would do when the water was at normal level. And that day it was at normal level, and I'd been there for, I don't know, probably an hour or so, and I brought all my fishing gear in a 5-gallon bucket, and I had a bucket of minnows, a styrofoam minnow bucket, and I'd caught a couple fish, and I'd come down and put them on the stringer there next to the bank, next to the sandbar, and they were crappie, and went back up the bank, went back, sat down on a bucket I had there next to a tree, and My minnows were gone. I couldn't figure out what happened to them. But my whole minnow bucket was gone, and I was looking for them, and that game trail that I was sitting right next to goes down into a real thick woods back there to the left, and it's some stuff called what we call kudzu. It's like a real thick ivy stuff, real thick, and it grows all on that side of the riverbank. And you can basically hide anything in there and not see it because it's so thick. But the game trail went right in between that, and you had to stoop down low to get through there. And I looked down there, and anyway, this went on. And I never did find my minnow bucket, so I got all my stuff, gave it up, and went back. I didn't have anything to fish with. And next week I was down there and brought some minnows. And that second week I was there, the water was up higher. The sandbar wasn't visible. It was real muddy out there and been raining, storming, and it was cool. And got ready to fish. And after I'd lost a minnow, I had my lines out. I had a couple poles out in the water and the lines out with the poles there. And came back, the minnow bucket was gone again. And by this time, I'm starting to think, well, somebody's here and they're stealing my minnows, or it's kind of strange. The minnow bucket just don't vanish. So started getting a little nervous thinking somebody was down there and they were taking my minnow bucket. So I looked around and it was kind of a stormy day anyway, and I didn't see it floating in the river where it had been blown over. It was a little windy that day. So I pretty much packed up like I did before and headed on back. And it might have been the next week or a couple weeks after I basically went back again. But this time I tied a string, a long string, thick string, more like a small rope, onto the wire handle to the minnow bucket. And when I went in with my minnows, I set it down next to the tree, and I tied the rope around the tree. And that way, if somebody went to get my bucket, I would at least have time enough to see them. And I'd also brought my shotgun with me. First time I brought a weapon down there, and it was leaned up against the tree, and basically I caught several fish, and the water was back down to regular level, and I could go out on the sandbar. And I had 2 or 3 fish on the stringer. I was having a pretty good day, and I came back up, and I noticed my minnow bucket was stretched. The rope was stretched from the tree all the way over into the kudzu where the trail went through that real thick ice stuff. I noticed it was pulled over there, and I immediately kind of stooped down to look down in there to see what I could see, and I couldn't see anything. So I got down and went over towards the minnow bucket. I had to get down on my knees almost to get in there because it was so low getting through that area. And when I did, I looked to the left in front of the bucket, and I seen a minnow bucket laying in the brush and the ivy. And then I seen another one a little further down to the right. And I thought, well, there's my 2 minnow buckets that I lost, weeks before. And I looked back at the minnow bucket that was pulled tight from the rope to the game trail there into the real thick kudzu. And the water was spilt out of it, and the top was still attached to the bucket, but it was off. And I looked in the minnow bucket, and there was only 1 minnow, and there was probably, 3 or 4 dozen in there before that happened. And I thought that was a little strange. And I looked down next to the bucket, and there was a footprint. And, this time of year, people aren't going to be running around in Tennessee and 35, 45 degree weather barefooted. So it wasn't a large footprint, but it looked human. Well, I got a little nervous thinking, well, somebody's in here and they're trying to steal my minnow bucket. So
or at least mess with you, or at least just kind of bother you psychologically or something. That's such a strange action for someone to do.
It was very strange because I didn't really understand what was going on, but I went back over and I had a 5-gallon bucket that I carried my fishing gear in. My tackle and all that. And then I had the minnow bucket and I had a shotgun in the other hand when I was coming in. And the shotgun was laying against the tree, and I basically just put the shotgun gun right down next to me there on the ground to the right of me. And I watched picked the minnow bucket up and came back over and sat down, and there was no way to really go fishing because I only had one minnow. So I just act like I was continued to fish, even though I wasn't fishing. My poles were out. I was trying to keep an eye on what this was, who it was to the left of me. I probably watched for longer than an hour, and then I caught a glimpse of something bent down looking at me. And it was down in that game trail area where it got through that thick stuff. It was bent over real low, and it was holding on to a tree with one hand, and it was looking at me. And when I seen it, the first thing that crossed my mind was, oh no, here's another one of these creatures.
Well, there's wood boogers.
I didn't want to be
Right.
around these creatures, and I didn't go looking for these creatures. I was just going fishing, and I didn't care to be around them. But this one didn't look like the wood booger I'd seen. It looked different, but I knew what it was. It was definitely not. It was one of. It was a Bigfoot or a forest person. I found out that's what I call that particular type now from my own experience. But oh yeah,
Okay.
it looked at me a little bit, and it kept looking at me. Then it would go in, and I couldn't see it anymore. And I was a little apprehensive and a little nervous thinking about it. So I got all my gear up and my shotgun. And I said, I don't want to be around these things. So I hit it on out and did that then, and went on back to my vehicle. And I couldn't make my mind up if I wanted to go back down there or not, because I realized I had run into these creatures again, and I wasn't real excited about seeing them again because after my first experience. But this one did look different. It wasn't a huge one. It was a smaller one, 5.5 foot tall, maybe. Didn't seem aggressive at all, and I was trying to make my mind up where I was going back or not. And I thought about it that whole night that I went home and the next day, and it just got to me, and I just said, I'm not letting these things beat me. I'm going back. So I went back down there, and it wasn't quite a week, but it was probably 2 or 3 days later. I kept thinking, do I really want to do this? And I did. And this time I went and acted like I was fishing. I didn't even have any minnows. I just brought a bucket, and I was basically just trying to see what these creatures, to see the creatures. I really wasn't fishing at all. I was just keeping my eye kind of trying to catch them.
Yeah, like your peripheral. Yeah, your peripheral vision.
Exactly
I
what
got
I
you.
was doing. And, I did that for probably a couple of hours, and then I seen it again. It was leaning down looking at me over there, and it was kind of holding onto a tree, and it was just watching me. And I was a little nervous, but it didn't seem aggressive like the one that I'd seen in my first experience. And this thing just kept watching me, and I was watching it. It seen me looking at it. I was just kept looking. I'm probably maybe 40 feet from it, not real far, not real close, but not real far. And it just keeps looking at me every once in a while. Then another one starts looking at me. One
Oh my
behind
God.
me. There's 2 of them looking at me now. I mean, one would bend down and look, and the other one would look. And I started thinking, well, these things are definitely not what I seen the first time. So, long story short, I started frequenting that area either daily or every other day. I wasn't going over 2 days, and I started going down there regularly, and I wanted to learn about them and understand more about them. They didn't look like the one I'd seen, as I said before, the first time. They looked different. They looked more like the patty type. I call it after I did a lot of looking in books, there wasn't any internet at that time, but a lot of looking in books, they were called like the type 3, type 4 type Bigfoot. The one I seen the first time was called a number 2 woodburger. So it didn't look anything like that thing. These didn't seem to be aggressive like that one did either. And I started going down there all the time. I actually began to enjoy it, and they were kind of friendly to me, and I was kind of friendly to them. And it was I would go in and take things to them, and that's before I'd ever heard of gifting. But I would take them different type of food and found out what they didn't like and what they did like. Their favorite food was definitely jet-filled donuts. They love it.
They were forest police. They weren't forest people. Okay.
Yeah.
What is a podcast without a good police donut joke, Daryl? Come on.
I understand that. Yeah. Gotcha. Maybe I should have taken a pot of coffee too, but you know.
Yeah. Then to be in the trees all buzzed out, you won't want that either, man. Oh wow,
that's what I did. You know, I started. They like cantaloupe. That's their favorite. They love cantaloupe. I learned a lot from those creatures, and they were really like my friends. So, and they like cooked bacon. Who doesn't? But they loved it. There were certain things they wouldn't eat though. They didn't want it just thrown on the ground. They wanted it on a nice plate, just like you or I would. They didn't want it dirty or anything like that. So.
And you found that out through like trial and error, or you found that out through over time that you just bring a plate?
It was by trial and error. You know, if I put it on the ground, they wouldn't eat it.
Would they break the plate, or would they be?
Well, I didn't carry a glass plate. I carried a paper plate. But when I put it on a paper plate, they were okay. They would eat it out of that. But, you know, they wouldn't just. They would reach out and get it and you know, take it into the cat zoo and I guess eat it. I didn't actually see them eating it at that particular time. Later on, I did see them eat things I brought them, but at that particular time, I didn't see them eat it. They would reach out and get it and go somewhere with it. And it was quite a while when I finally saw the third one. The third one was a big male. He was, and the reason why I know this, but you can tell by the gender or how they're made, but the first one was a female. The first one I met was a female. She was maybe 5.5 foot tall, solid black. The one behind her was about the same height. He was a male. And then the one behind him that I started seeing probably 4 or 5 months in, and I felt like he was probably the one that watched over him. And he was probably 7 foot tall, probably. It was hard to tell because it was real thick in there, and I couldn't see him stand all the way up, but I could see him stand up and only see part of it. But I was guessing he was not a full-grown, probably a juvenile or a large juvenile, but he was watching over them. I felt like to make sure nothing happened to them, but he was not aggressive either. He would look out over them and make sure everything was okay. And by this time, they had gotten kind of used to me. They knew who I was, and when I would go in, I would start talking to them. You know, 100 yards back. Hey, I'm here to visit y'all today. I'm coming in, and you know, they knew that where I was going, and I would go sit down next to that tree that I always did. And of course, I didn't carry a gun anymore. I'd learned that they were not trying to harm me.
How long did you do this for, Daryl?
Between 3 and 4 years.
Do you believe they're still there? Do you believe they're still there?
No, I would still be going there. If they were there, I'd still be going there. But anyway, I spent a lot of time with these creatures. I even went in there and camped out with them. I slept next to the tree, built a little fire, and slept next to the tree in my sleeping bag. And they were over in their area, and you could hear them moving around in there, making sounds they make. And they would peek out and look at me, and you know, it was kind of a unique type thing. I felt I don't think I would have ever. I know I would have never got over my first experience if it hadn't been for this family, because I was fearful of them, and this family was nothing like the first one I'd met. They were. I was going to ask you
that. Like, you're going out into the LBL and you are experiencing, you know, a creepy crawler. You're seeing a dogman come out of the mist, and you don't seem to be. You seem so nonchalant and not bothered by it. But I imagine this situation, this experience that you had with this family of Bigfoot for 4 years, as well as going out with people who've experienced other things or, you know, different experiences, and then doing that together, and you know what I mean, like that camaraderie helps you out. Am I in the ballpark?
Yeah, I think that's pretty true. You know, it's you know, after this family that I met on the river, it really calmed me down a lot. I was different about these creatures, and don't get me wrong, I've been around. I don't know why or how, these creatures find me. I really don't. I do know there are certain people that they seem to find more than others, or
True.
maybe have a chance to see them where other people don't. But why I'm the chosen one, or one of the people who can be around them, I can't tell you. I do have some. I've heard people say maybe it's your American Indian blood, which I have a little bit of that in me, but they seem to know your intentions, and I do 100% believe they know your heart and intentions. I think they can read you. I think they know if you're in there for the wrong reason, and I think if you have that bad intentions, your chances of seeing them are not going to be very good. And they're not
Wow.
going. They do not like cameras of any kind. They don't like lights of any kind, and they surely don't like weapons of any kind.
So when you went camping, you went like without a light. You would just light the campfire, and that would be
I
all you'd
just built
have.
a little campfire next to the tree. I had a flashlight, but I didn't bother them with it. I would just lay there in my sleeping bag, and I could hear them moving around. They were good with me being there. So, I'd experienced them for a long time before I did that. And I was trying my best to communicate with them the best I could. Every time that I went in, I would say, "Hey, my name is Daryl. Please tell me your name." And I would do that all the time. "My name is Daryl. Please tell me your name."
Did you get any response?
I
Did you get
was
any
trying to
response?
communicate with them. Probably about, it was somewhere between 3.5 and it wasn't quite 4 years that I was with them. It was a little over 3.5 probably when I didn't see them anymore. But, I did get a response. After a long period of time. And, the first thing that really, I learned how intelligent they were. They were super intelligent, and they were super smart. They picked up on things. I'd say I'd say these creatures were as smart as humans, or smarter than some humans for sure, because they could easily tell what I was doing there while I was there. They knew that I liked them and they were my friends. They knew that. I brought them all kinds of gifts over the years in there, and they made me gifts. They made me stuff, and maybe a milk carton. They gave me a milk carton that they had found somewhere. It had been in the river for a long time, but they put sticks through all four sides of it and formed these X's coming out every direction, and it was pretty cool looking. And it had vines wrapped around that, and I brought them some whistles in there one time. And like plastic whistles, like your kids have at a birthday party or
Yeah, with a
something.
little wheel, a little ball inside of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and they got a little black string on them, and
Yeah.
I bought a pack of those at a dime store not far from where I lived at, and I was just trying to think of different things to bring them to see what they thought about them, and I brought them those whistles down there and hung them on tree limbs all around their area, and the next time I left, and the next time I went down there, when I came in, I said, "Hey, I'm here to visit you today." All these whistles went off. They were everywhere.
Sound like an NBA basketball game down there.
Yeah, they were in front of me. They were to the left of me. They were across
That is so
the river.
cool.
I mean, I think there was probably, I don't remember how many was in the little pack. It was probably 7, 8, 9, 10 of them. But anyway, I heard them going off everywhere, and they'd stop blowing it after I got in. They would just let me know that they were there and where they were at with those whistles.
And they were happy that they were using them, so they were happy. That is so cool. Who thinks to bring whistles?
I felt like it was. I really felt like that I was accomplishing a lot with these creatures because I learned a lot from them, and I realized that they weren't bad. They were trying to understand me as much as I was trying to understand them, and they did a lot of things, over that time period that made me realize that they have feelings just like we do.
Yeah.
And they also understand that people's intentions. I only brought one other person ever in there, and that was my close friend Daryl. I took him. He knew about them. I told him about them. I didn't tell everybody about it because I didn't want anybody to know where they were at, or I didn't want people to go down there and bother them. And because a lot of people go in and kill those type creatures too, or try to harm them. And
what do you mean kill? You've heard about people killing them before?
Oh yeah, I've heard of it. I've heard of people shooting. I think the government has killed quite a few of them. But I'm getting
Wow,
to the
that's a
point
different
here.
episode.
You know, I went. These creatures were really close to me. I really felt like I had a reliance with them.
You had like a responsibility as well to kind of
I mean,
protect them.
they liked me. I liked them. I would take them things. They would take me things. They'd bring me things. And it was in sometime probably 2002. I had gotten caught up at work, and I'd been going down there regularly, been seeing them like I had been either every day, every other day, or the. It was never more than 2 days when I went down there and spending 2 or 3 hours with them. But you know, it was just something that I did. I was learning a lot of stuff from them, and I asked them. I said, "Where are you from? Can you tell me where you're from? You know, are you from here? Where are you from?" And
Oh, wow.
I asked them a lot of stuff over that time frame, and I got response, but I didn't understand it. I know they knew my American Indian language. They knew that. They knew what that meant because I could say words, and they would give me a shake or some kind of answer back with their own way of letting me know that they understood. They did have their own language, and they do understand English, some of it or all of it. I don't know if they do or not. I know they understand some of it. But I asked them repeatedly over 2.5 years probably, "Please tell me your name. Can you tell me your name?" And you know, the first time ever, the younger one in front, one day I was reaching down and I had a box of jelly-filled donuts and I was putting them on a plate. I wasn't paying attention to her and I was pushing the plate over close. And I said, "I wish you guys would tell me your name. My name is Daryl." And she goes, "Aleatha." So after all this time, her name was Aleatha. And it was in a real gruff, different type voice. I can't sound like she did.
Kind of like guttural, I guess. Like,
and I said,
yeah.
"You mean your name is Aleatha? Did you say that?" And she went, and I said, "Wow, you can speak English?" And that's the only English I ever heard out of her. Except when I left. When I would leave, every time I would leave them and I was walking away, I would say, "Bye, see you guys soon, bye." And I would hear them as I was leaving go, "Bye, bye, bye," in different, you know, parts of the. There was several of them watching me that I couldn't see, but they knew what "bye" meant, I guess, because of me saying it when I would leave. And then the larger one back behind her, he eventually. I asked all 3 of them what their name was. Now there was a family of these things in there. I've seen parts and pieces of several other ones besides these 3, but I never seen the other ones in the open like I did these 3. And the one behind her, that was his name, the one behind the 2 younger ones, the tall one, which was about, I'm thinking roughly 7 foot tall, he finally told me his name, Tobias.
Tobias?
Tobias, yes.
Tobias.
And that was
That's German.
That was the only English I ever got out of them besides the word "bye." And I think they only done that because they heard me saying it. I don't know if they know the whole English language or not, but they gave me 2 names over that long period of time, and that's the only thing they ever gave me in English. So
that's incredible.
I'm not sure if they knew the whole language or not, but I was getting closer and closer and closer to these creatures, and close enough that the front one, which I was very close to, closer to her than I was the other 2, and that was Aleatha. She actually reached out and touched my boot, and that was just fantastic at that time because I realized that she trusted me that much, and I felt like I was really learning from these things and learning more about them. And I asked them many a time, "Where are you from? Are you from the heavens?" They would just look up, and I'd say, "Are you from another galaxy?" And they said, Aleatha said, "Another galaxy." I mean, she didn't say the word. She did that when I said, "Are you from another galaxy?" And she gave me that. So all I can tell you is she's either from the heavens or another galaxy. These creatures were. So that's the only verbal or I ever
Hey,
got. I tried to get more, but I never did. And I don't know.
they,
I know they were capable of more, but apparently they didn't feel like giving me that information because I had a good relationship with them. But I was down there. What happened to these creatures? I can tell you right now, it broke my heart.
sure.
I still think about them regularly. But I went down there for the first time, the whole time since I'd first met them. I had got caught up at work and I couldn't get off, and I was really busy. And I was gone for about a week and a half or 2 weeks, and I'd never been gone from them that long. It was either every other day or every 2 days I was there. And they counted on me to come because we had that kind of relationship. It was like a family relationship. And I got down there worried about them the whole time because it'd been that long. I was hoping they would be upset at me for being away that long. And I went down there and parked my vehicle and started walking down the game trail, going back in there yelling, "Hey, I'm here." I heard nothing. And then I noticed there was that whole area had been leveled. They had
Oh
bulldozers and
man.
backhoes had been in there, and all the trees were tore down, and the kazoo was all gone, and there was stakes sticking up with little ribbons on them, like they were about to build something back there.
Right.
I don't know if that belonged to the county or the city or the government or who it belonged to back in there.
Or a
But
housing development or something. Who
it was
knows?
something. But they were building something back there, and I started yelling for them. Hey, where are you at? And of course, the area that they were in and the tree that I'd sat next to all that period of time, it was gone, and that kazoo was gone. Well, I walked back in there because it's real thick for miles back in there. I walked back in there for no telling how many times yelling for them, way back in further than where they were at, and even
Wow.
got a
That's
boat
sad,
a
dude.
couple
That's
weeks
so
later and
sad.
went to the other side of the river to see if they were on that side of the river to see if I could find any tracks, and I never found anything of them.
Wow.
Never seen them again, and I did find, and I haven't told many people this, but I did find shell casings, and that
Say it
really
again.
shell casings, rifle
Shell
shell
casings. Yes.
casings.
Shell casings.
And I did find some shell casings around that area, and it really alarmed me because I was sure hoping that this construction company, whoever was building whatever they were building back there, it may have been something attached to that old plant there. I don't know, and I'm sure that some of these people went back in there probably to do this and may have seen them, and they might have thought it was me coming in, maybe, or they even blew those whistles. I've worried about that over the years, but somebody apparently seen them and probably called authorities or somebody in, and they either euthanized them or
Oh
shot
my
them or
God.
what. I don't really know what happened to them, but I know
That
that I
sucks,
went
dude.
down there for a couple of years after that happened and went down miles back in there on the river and trying to find them and trying to find tracks, and I never heard from them or seen them again.
These
So
things need to be protected. I think that's why. I think that's why the government is like trying to like deny this stuff, and I think there needs to be some type of protection of these things. That is that is so sad.
well,
I know you got to get up out of here, brother. You can finish it any way you want to. Just go ahead and yeah. But I'm this is a lot for me too. I mean, everyone in the chat is like they're just like yeah, they're
Well,
messed
it
up.
was,
That's messed
it
up.
was. I'll be honest with you, Tommy. It was pretty devastating to me because these were a kind, friendly, non-aggressive creature. They weren't trying to do anything but live their lives there, and they accepted me into their family. And
Right.
it was pretty awesome. I enjoyed the time I had with them, and I hope that I'm wrong. I hope nobody killed them. I hope they moved on somewhere else. That's all I can
Yeah.
hope for. But I don't know that somebody killed them. That could have been somebody just firing a gun down there. I hope I'm right about that. But I don't have any evidence of anything. And I did do some research on that area to see if anybody had heard anything. I had a couple of friends that worked for the Game and Fish Commission. They didn't know anything about what I was talking about. They knew game and fish officials in that area, and they hadn't heard nothing about it. And I knew some people in local police, so they didn't know anything, or they said they did anyway. So I never found out what happened to them. I do know that these creatures were what I believe, I call them the forest people, because these creatures made the large X's. They had them all over those woods, huge trees, X's, and on the ground too. And later on in years, I won't keep much time here for this, but later on in years, when I heard of Dr. Matthew Johnson, Michael Patterson called me up and said, not to Michael Patterson from Canada, but Michael Patterson, my friend from West Virginia. He and I started the first Bigfoot group back in 2015 on Facebook. And he said, you got to listen to this Matthew Johnson guy. He's got some of the same similar stuff that happened to you. And after I started listening to him, and Dr. Matthew Johnson, this guy's brilliant, but he's a former psychiatrist, when he's still a psychiatrist. He had an encounter in Oregon. Anyway, basically listening to what he had found out and the things he had experienced, he had been around the same type of creatures I was around, and he called them the forest people, the Xanu. And after I listened to his videos, I was completely blown away, because it was so similar to what I'd experienced on the river with these type of creatures that are just, it was hard to believe. But I do believe we were experiencing the same type of creatures. But anyway, wow. Thank you for having me on. And
anytime, dude. One more time, go ahead and talk about your Facebook group. If you guys, sure. If anyone's listening to this, and it's a group where you can go ahead. If you have any type of experiences, you want to have someone to talk to. They're all friendly people. You have any, evidence, vocals, pictures, anything like that. Could you please tell me again, Daryl, what the group is?
Yeah, thank you very much, Tom. It's Bigfoot Believers and Other Creatures. Bigfoot Believers and Other Creatures. Now, there's 2 or 3 groups called Bigfoot Believers, and some reason they've named it, kind of trying to get people to join. Don't join those groups, because there's a lot of rude people in them. I don't care what groups you join. There's some good ones out there besides mine, but Bigfoot Believers and Other Creatures, you won't get any ridicule there. We're all open-minded, and whatever you want to share will be kept in confidence with the group members, and you'll be welcomed. So thanks again for having me on, Tom. I appreciate you, brother.
Thank you so very much for coming on, Daryl. Anytime, if you have anything you ever want to promote, you can always promote it on the Eye of Jupiter as well. And yeah, dude, it's been a blessing to get to know you.
One thing, if
sure.
I can, Martin Groves and myself will be at the Tennessee Wildman Conference in McMinnville, Tennessee. If anybody's in the area, we'd sure like to see you there. Joe and Jesse from Hellbent Holler.
When is this going to be?
This will be August 9th and 10th in McMinnville, Tennessee. And I'll be speaking there. Martin Groves, Joe and Jesse from Hellbent Holler, MK Davis. We got some great people that's going to be there. We'd sure like to see you if you can come.
That's great, guys. If you guys are out there in the Tennessee area out that way, go out there and talk to Daryl. He's a fantastic gentleman. And Daryl, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for coming on. And yeah, dude, it's been great like always. And I appreciate you too, brother. Thank you so very much. And we'll keep in touch, okay?
All right. Thank you, brother.
All right, buddy. Have a good evening.
All right.
Later. Oh, that was the incredible, wonderful Daryl Denton, who always comes on and blows my mind as well as you all. Thank you all very much. Do me a favor. Go over and like and subscribe to the channel. This Friday, we're going to have on an incredible guest on the regular podcast. It's going to be one of those guys. Take and share that one. Next week on the live, we have on Angel. Hopefully she can come on this week. She had a family situation. And the next live after that, we will having on the gentleman that we're having on Friday. So go ahead and watch that episode. That way, when he comes on in 2 weeks on Wednesday, you'll have your questions ready for him. I love you all very much. Thank you for coming on the podcast. Thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for all your support. You guys have been killing it. And remember, we are the Eye, and we are aware. Love you all very much.